Welcome back to the channel. In today's video, I'm going to answer some very good questions from a commenter on my YouTube channel about common misconceptions when it comes to investing in Bitcoin, in altcoins, and other forms of cryptocurrency, and what an investor needs to consider when he's thinking for the long haul. There's also some great questions in here about the cognitive bias or the directional bias of most other Bitcoin YouTubers or other influencers in the space as well. So there's a lot that we talk about in this video. Forecasting, parabolic cycles, manipulation of the market by whales, Bitcoin as a commodity, Bitcoin as a currency or a competition to fiat, and the inherent value of altcoins in general. All this and more we're going to break down in today's episode of Crypto Currently. Let's get cracking. Okay, so now I want to go back to Adam Borikowski's comment. So I am going to copy and paste this, and I'm going to put this somewhere. Here we go. Let me pull this down, and I'm going to answer these questions. Okay. And we're going to go back to Bitcoin to have a nice little backdrop as we talk about these questions. And I'm going to answer them the best that I can. I don't know if I have all the answers, but here is my thoughts on your opinions, man. Okay, so Adam starts off, he says, "Hey Justin, I am a big fan of the channel." Thank you very much. "And I have posted these same questions to Sunny Decree, Chris at Crypto, and other YouTubers today, as it would be interesting to see the differing opinions. In my view, you are the most knowledgeable in terms of trading and markets, so your take on these questions would be appreciated. I hold Bitcoin and admit that I am not an expert in Bitcoin or the market, but I am guessing new investors may have similar doubts and questions." So question number one. Forecasting. There is a suggestion, either directly or indirectly, from a number of Bitcoin YouTubers that Bitcoin has a high probability of reaching astronomical levels ranging from $20,000 to even $5 million each. Basic market economics would suggest that if investors, either individuals or institutions, had the same outlook, this sentiment would already be baked into the price, and the price would already be close to those levels. Therefore, investors and potential investors don't share those views. If they did, they would be willing to purchase Bitcoin for much higher prices right now. True or false? False. So you cannot factor growth into investors' ideas of what the market is right now. So there's a difference between value and there's a difference between growth potential from an investment standpoint. So this is a different investment. This is a different strategy in value investing. So if you are looking for growth appreciation or growth profit, you are going to buy something that in your analysis, the market considers undervalued. And if you are, that is growth investing. So your only concern is the price of whatever asset you buy appreciating over time, because you are going to be a time traveler. You are a speculator. You identify value. You identify either, if you're talking about stocks, like PE ratio or dividends earnings or whatever it might be, whatever analysis you're using to determine whether something actually has value or what the company is going to do or potential partnerships coming up or whatever it might be. You identify something that the market currently does not value very much. You buy that asset, you transport it into the future when the market realizes how valuable it is, and then you sell it at a higher price. So from a growth standpoint, your only concern is the appreciation of the asset. Now, although that is how I trade, when it comes to my investment strategy, I'm more interested in things like dividends and passive income and returns. So I like cash paid out. That's why I like real estate. That's why I like dividend generating stocks. That's why I like other investments as well. Small businesses, franchises, as I've talked about before, which I have investments in. Anything that's going to generate income every single month, right? And that makes up a huge amount of what I'm reinvesting back into the market at all times, right? My trading generates my active income. Any money that I don't live off of gets saved, gets reinvested back into the system. Because that is how individuals grow wealth. I allow my money to work for me, and I don't chase money. So, and again, just, I know some people hear that and they're like, well, that's easy for you. You've got a lot of money. I started absolute broke. I come from a lower, I was never taught banking. I was never taught economics. I come from no money. I started from scratch. I started by busting my ass for a year, saving up enough money to try to trade full time, lost everything. I saved up $30,000 working my butt off for another year, pretty much just lived in a crappy apartment, put all my money in, just set all my money aside, lost all that money again, did it again, and now I've made it, okay? Took time, took patience, took energy, but I literally started from zero. Anybody can do it. You just tighten your belt, get a crappy apartment, save all your money, get an idea what you want to do with your capital, devise a system, and then just execute, right? And then you never look back. So from a income standpoint, you're looking at things that generate income, right? So those things can be factored into the price. So when we're looking at earnings reports, when we're looking at dividends paid out by a stock, when we're looking at how news is going to affect price, a lot of that stuff can be already baked into the price by speculators. But the problem with I guess the big problem here, or what's wrong about the statement, and again, I respect the question, is that the market is not always right. The market is wrong all of the time. Otherwise, price would stay the same. There would be no fight between the bulls and the bears. You have some investors who have a certain opinion about price, and then you have other investors who have a different opinion about price. And for that reason, you're going to get this mix, this fight between the bulls and the bears as we try to meet an equal price or a price of confluence to be in a zone of contention. And then you're going to get a lot of retail traders in who basically just kind of buy when price is going up and sell when price is going down, blah, 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 generally at the bottom, generally at the top. So no, I think that Bitcoin has the same probability of appreciating. And again, you use the word astronomical there because it's a big number. But again, that number is relative. So Bitcoin is currently trading around $10,000. So if it were to go to $40,000, that would be a large increase relative to its size, but I don't think that's astronomical in objective terms. Okay, it's not astronomical in relative terms, right? It's large in relative terms, but it's not astronomical. I think that assertion is now 5 million. I think is something, but those numbers are based off of speculators' fundamentals. So they're saying that Bitcoin will replace gold as the global store of value. If that is the case, there is definitely value in comparing the market capitalization of gold to what 1 ounce of gold is worth, and then extrapolating that to what the circulating supply of Bitcoin will be and determining what the value of 1 Bitcoin would be based off of total market capitalization if Bitcoin were to replace gold. So if Bitcoin had gold's market capitalization, then one would assume that you could figure out then, based on knowing exactly what the fixed supply is, you could determine what the value of 1 Bitcoin would be. And the common number that I hear is anywhere from 500,000 to 1 million. So that is based on a speculator or an investor's idea or opinion or analysis that Bitcoin will be long-term successful. So I don't think that there is anything astronomical about those price levels. I might disagree with, how quickly we get there. And I generally disagree all with the when moon type shit. But yeah, I mean, I'm a Bitcoin investor because I think that it is a good value. I think that it is a good technology. I think that's going to change the world. I think that the world will continue to see the value in it. Price reality isn't baked into price because news can be baked into price. Shorter term events can be baked into price. Like things that are going to happen tomorrow are probably already baked into price. But all that really means, what does baked into price mean? I'll explain that. Baked into price, you hear that word and you would assume that baked into price means that everybody knows that what the real value of something is. Nobody knows what the real value of something is. Everybody is a speculator. If I ask you what the value of Bitcoin is to you, what do you think it's a good price for Bitcoin? That's going to be a different answer from me. If you were to ask me, how valuable is this ring on my finger, your answer is going to be different than mine. Value is subjective. I think that there is objective value, but value, a personal interpretation of a dollar value, that is completely subjective, right? And the only way we get to confluence is we have buyers and sellers agree on price, but that changes. That changes depending on market sentiment, depends on investor sentiment, right? So obviously we can see during December 2017, people were willing to pay $19,000 for 1 Bitcoin. And then in December of 2018, they were only willing to pay about $3,500 per Bitcoin. So the idea that anything is baked into price is nonsense. All baked into price means is that market movers have already made their move, right? So when people say that word, oh, that's baked into price, man, that's already baked in. All that means in reality is that if there is a sentiment that price is going to go down, then big money has already taken it down, right? So the movement is pretty much already done. Right? And you might be able to catch a scrap of the movement, but the majority of the movement's already been made because it was baked into price in advance by speculators by acting on their investment thesis. So there's no such thing as something being objectively baked into price. All baked into price means is somebody who actually has some significant capital to move price has already moved price or is already in the process of moving price. So it's more of a cautionary statement than something that's objective. So hopefully that's good. You may agree or disagree with that, but that's my honest take on that. The market is always wrong. The market is never right. And that is why prices fluctuate over time. Question 2, parabolic cycles. There is a suggestion either directly or indirectly from a number of Bitcoin YouTubers that Bitcoin will experience a similar parabolic wave as experienced in Q4 2017 and other periods in Bitcoin's history. Historic price movements have no bearing on future price movements other than perhaps influencing some investors to hold their Bitcoin in the hope another parabolic move will occur to the scales seen historically. The price could just as easily settle back down to 1,000 and stay in that vicinity. We have historically seen this boom and bust cycle where the bust cycle is indefinite with other commodities that have seen parabolic rises. True or false? True. Yes. There is nothing that says that Bitcoin will move into a parabolic cycle. That is an investment thesis. That can or cannot be your investment thesis. You are correct that we've seen lots of commodities enter into parabolic rises that then average out. And then the non-parabolic cycle remains for a very long period of time. But again, future is not written in stone. For example, we could see another massive parabolic cycle in oil. We could see a massive parabolic cycle in gold. Parabolic cycles are generally something that do tend to repeat given enough time. You see them with the rise and collapse of nations. You see them in the rise and collapse of relationships. You see them in the rise and collapse of asset prices. So, yeah, I think that there is a little bit too much like directly leaning on this idea among a lot of, Bitcoiners that, well, because we went parabolic before, that's just a natural cycle, man, and it's going to repeat. It's not. Like there's no guarantee, or I think, in my opinion, any level of analysis that is helpful from just saying, well, price did this in the past, therefore it's probably going to do this in the future. Every moment in the market is unique. So, although I do think that there is, obviously, I think that I want to drill into that a little bit because, you're like, I think that overall the tone of that comes off as like, well, just because there was a parabolic cycle doesn't mean there's going to be a parabolic cycle. I completely agree with you there. But the fact that there was a parabolic cycle influences investors' decisions, which you admit to in this paragraph, right? And that matters, right? That can be a big matter, right? So that can be a big selling point. Somebody with $10 billion could decide to buy into Bitcoin because he believes in the parabolic cycle. So anything that can influence the minds and hearts of investors has an effect on price. And therefore, nothing is baked in. Let's see here. Number 3. Whale manipulation. There is a lot of talk by Bitcoin YouTubers about whales manipulating the price of Bitcoin, when in fact little evidence of this has been presented. There is no tangible evidence whether this is simply holders of Bitcoin with large balances cashing out or investors buying large balances. There could be zero market manipulation. True or false? I highly disagree with this. I think that there is ample evidence. Again, go look at the Bitwise report. I don't really have anything that I could grab in my hands and show you. But it does exist, right? And if you give me enough time, I could find it. But I'm not really going to take the time to at this point in time. But I think that's something interesting for me to do. But if you do your own research, you will be able to find. Go look at. Okay, there's a lot of actual reports and statistics on this. Go look at go look at cash settled CME futures and silver suppression. All right. Go look at the Forex markets. The big banks absolutely manipulate the Forex markets because they have all the capital. And they have an advantage that other traders do not have, which is where they can see the order books and they can see who is long and who is short, right? Typically, nobody but the exchange can do that. So when you have that information, especially if you are the bank, and you are the bank that works for a central bank that prints the digital assets or the physical assets, you have all the power in your hands. It doesn't, I don't think this is even debatable. Like, sure, is there, are there whales influencing the price of Bitcoin? Absolutely, man. Absolutely. Especially low cap liquidity coins, because there's a lot of money to be made. There's a lot of money to be made. We saw it today. Let's go to the charts. I'll show you, man. Okay. Now you tell me if this is something that's baked into price, right? Look at this big movement to the downside, all right? 5% movement to the downside, triggering all the stop losses of anybody that went long here. Triggers all the stop losses. What are stop losses? Those are stop sell orders, right? So those stop sell orders are selling to somebody, filling a bid at that price, right? Filling a bid at that price. There are indicators on TradingView where you can go see whether statistical liquidation prices of anybody entering prices at any point in time. Those areas are targeted by savvy investors who are able to push price down on spot, right? Influence index price, and then take price to the upside on a leveraged exchange. I can tell you anecdotally that this absolutely does exist. Okay, absolutely does exist. I mean, I know this for a fact to exist, right? There are documented cases of individuals being caught doing this. There is, and it's kind of common sense, man. And I know common sense is often wrong, but low liquidity markets are easy to manipulate, i.e. there is profit incentive to manipulate them. There are lots of people with lots of cryptocurrencies. They manipulate the markets. Now, is every movement in the market manipulated? No. Go read Reminiscence of a Stock Operator, okay? That is a book. Reminiscences of a Stock Operator is a book written by a professional stock manipulator. And the key takeaway from that book is, does market manipulation occur in every single asset class? Yes, absolutely. Why? Because you've put a lot of money into the hands of individuals that have a profit incentive to move the market in a particular way, tripping up stops and taking price in the direction that they want. But here's what you cannot do. This is what a professional stock manipulator of years said. You cannot manipulate price in a direction it does not want to go. So, does manipulation happen? Yes. Does that mean that every movement in the market or any movement in the market is fabricated? No. You can't take price in a direction it doesn't want to go. But as long as you have smart money and dumb money, you're going to get what most colloquially refer to as manipulation. But we're getting into semantics here because, again, as I just said, you cannot manipulate a market in a direction it does not ultimately want to go. You can nudge it though, right? You can nudge it, right? That's manipulation. But again, everything in the market is manipulation. You are influencing every time you click that button or post this show is market manipulation because I am influencing the hearts and minds and decisions potentially of traders and investors in the market. And something that I say might influence their decision. Every single thing that occurs in the market is technically by definition manipulation because you are attempting to get your order filled, and that's because it's a zero-sum game. So to buy at a good price, somebody has to sell at a bad price. To sell at a good price, somebody has to buy at a bad price. I think that overall the whole like whales control everything is a little overblown. It's a real market. There is real volume. There are real traders. We have a very healthy market. Arbitrage is tight. Spreads are good. But yeah, I mean, there's just not a lot of liquidity. So absolutely, there are whale movements. There are large traders that take advantage of uneducated investors and traders. It happens every single day. Every single day. Does that mean the market sucks? No, because the same thing happens on every single tradable asset everywhere, anytime, ever in the history of humanity. Having a large market share is an edge all in of itself. Bitcoin Trading Challenge has got a pretty good video about this where he talks about market edges. I recommend go checking that out for you guys interested. He talks about the I think he talks about 3 different types of edges you can have in the market. Shout out to you, Bennett. I haven't seen you in a while, man. Hopefully you're doing well over there with everything that you're doing. But yeah, a statistical edge is a good edge. So timing and strategy are both edges, right? So we focus on a strategy edge. Some traders, reversal traders, are going to focus on a timing edge. And having market share gives you an edge all in of itself because you can ultimately nudge the market along in a direction where it benefits you for it to move and against the interests of other traders, i.e. you take that profit incentive. 4. Sorry, this is going on for quite a while, but this is a lot of good questions and I think good for people to hear. This will give me, I'll cut these clips up and publish these probably. Number 4, Bitcoin is a commodity, not a currency. In Bitcoin's early days, it was viewed as a potential alternative currency. For example, to buy a pizza or send Bitcoin to a friend as a gift. While this can be done practically, Bitcoin has failed to be adopted by the mainstream as an alternative currency and is simply something which investors are speculating on. Bitcoin has little practical value other than as a speculative commodity, and in fact will never be adopted mainstream as a form of currency. No, false. I mean, that's your opinion. My opinion is that it will. So Bitcoin serves as a good alternative to money. You can still send a very large quantity of Bitcoin almost instantaneously across the world, much cheaper and faster than a wire transfer. The Lightning Network is in active development. The Lightning Network is fantastic. Soon we'll be able to have you already have, if you want to. If you want to be a pioneer, it's not even a pioneer, man. We've got Blockstream on satellites. We've got the network on satellites. The internet could go down. We still have the Bitcoin network. You can still send and receive transactions. As long as a meteor doesn't hit Earth and we die, you can still send money faster, cheaper, secure, private, fully public blockchain. Has it achieved the level of mainstream adoption yet? I mean, we're 10 years in, man, and the government's afraid of Bitcoin. United States government did 4 consecutive days of posting fear about Libra, but that's because Bitcoin made Libra a reality. There would be no Libra if there wasn't Bitcoin, right? Bitcoin started it all. I think that Bitcoin is the better alternative, and I think that Bitcoin will be adopted as a worldwide currency because it's the best form of technology. It doesn't matter if it takes 10, 15, 20 years. The fact that it's 10 years in and we're having this conversation about, well, it's 10 years in and Bitcoin's failed, bro. I think that really kind of stands out that Bitcoin is succeeding, but it's a slow game. It's a very slow game. Winning hearts and minds and taking power back from central banks is difficult. It's not going to happen in 10 years. But at the end of the day, that comes down to your opinion versus mine, or your opinion versus anybody else, or anybody's opinion versus anybody else's opinion. Because there are some people who think that, Tron is going to be, worldwide currency. There are people that think that, that BitTorrent token is going to be the world reserve. There's just opinions, man. Those are investment theses, and you're entitled to yours, and I'm entitled to mine. And the market's going to determine who was right and who was wrong, because nobody can predict the future, and every moment in the market is unique. 5, Bitcoin is in competition to fiat. The argument that Bitcoin could replace fiat is nonsense. The entry into Bitcoin, if a new investor wants to purchase some Bitcoin, is by transferring fiat onto Coinbase or a similar website and making a purchase. Therefore, fiat is needed to purchase Bitcoin. If there was no way of purchasing Bitcoin with fiat, the price of Bitcoin would be at a fraction of the current price. Therefore, Bitcoin is dependent on the very thing that it is purporting to replace. If hyperinflation kicked in, new investors would still need that fiat to purchase Bitcoin. True or false? False. Because again, that question is formulated in an environment, in a mindset where there is only fiat. There didn't used to be fiat, bro. Fiat replaced precious metals, traded other mediums of exchange. Mediums of exchange switch. So there is no reason why. So yes, currently the most common way to get Bitcoin is to purchase Bitcoin with fiat, but that's not the only way to get fiat or to get Bitcoin. If somebody can send you Bitcoin, for example, if you do a job. So let's take a world, let's replace fiat and let's just put Bitcoin in there. Let's say fiat never existed and there was only cryptocurrency, right? Let's just jump a couple hundred years in the future. Do we magically need fiat to get Bitcoin? No. I go to work, I perform my job, I get paid in Bitcoin, I have Bitcoin. It's a different form of currency, man. And worldwide adoption takes quite a long time. And yeah, your point here is that if there was no way of purchasing Bitcoin with fiat, the price of Bitcoin would be at a fraction of the current price. I'm going to stop you there. The price of Bitcoin measured against the fiat that you are talking about would most likely be a fraction of the price, right? But when we're talking about what is a currency's intrinsic value, right? So what does the dollar trade against? Well, nothing. So what should Bitcoin trade against if it's going to be evaluated as a currency? Nothing. When you evaluate Bitcoin against the dollar, you are evaluating it as an asset, right? Not as a currency. So that argument makes sense for price appreciation against the dollar as a asset, but is not valid when we're talking about what a currency is. A fiat currency is not valued against anything else. You can value something against something else, like for example, the Forex markets value certain currencies against something else, but then that is down to the speculation of investors and buyers and sellers again. So is Bitcoin's price going to be speculated again? Sure. But a currency is a currency because people use it as a medium of exchange for goods and services. That's it. And if people accept Bitcoin as a medium of exchange or as a payment system for goods and services, then there is no fiat required. And you do not need fiat to get Bitcoin. There is a website called jobsforbitcoins.com where you can go get paid in Bitcoin. Number 6, and I think this is the last question. The majority of altcoins are significantly overpriced compared to their functional or inherent value. The sentiment during the altcoin boom of Q4 2017 and into early 2018 was that blockchain technologies would revolutionize our daily lives. Many altcoins published their vision for the future. In reality, very little of that vision has been realized. Has XRP delivered on its vision? Has Tron delivered its vision? Is the utopian vision for the top alts already priced in against a backdrop of failures against that utopian vision? Again, this is speculation. It's been literally 1 year. A little bit longer than a year. So about 18 months since the last altcoin boom of 2017, but we've had many booms in between them. Again, we're just kind of coming off of one, actually. If you go look at the altcoin market, the last month or so, we've been in actually 2 months or so, we've been in a downswing. But prior to that, things shot up a couple 100%. So that's just market cycles. But, I'm gonna deign toward overall agreeing with you here. I think that there's a lot of hype about altcoins, but it just comes down to what they actually follow through on. I mean, yeah, they're pretty new, man. Bitcoin hasn't, as we already talked about, has Bitcoin replaced fiat as a world reserve currency? No, but it's 10 years in and we're working on it, And sentiment continues to grow every day. Bitcoin's price continues to grow every day. More people work on Bitcoin every day. We get better developers every day. New projects, products, and services continue to be created every day. And honestly, there's a lot of development in the altcoin market space actually right now. Now, am I more bearish on altcoins than bullish on them? Some, mostly, yeah. But that doesn't mean that, again, we're coming down to speculation. You know, it's kind of like asking an oil tycoon in the late 90s that they saw the value of what Facebook and Google were building, right? I mean, you know, a lot of these questions, which are good questions, but a lot of these questions are based on the current paradigm, which we're going to talk about how paradigms shift in the next segment. So hopefully this was helpful to you. Hopefully I answered the questions well. These are my personal thoughts and opinions. They're not meant to be static and absolutely correct and 100% right, but that's my answers, man.